Sup peeps, Sora here, and this is the first in a new series I'm going to be doing about updates to the Switch 2 with the collecting and like my experience playing it up because I got it recently. I got it roughly just over a week ago. I even included in one of my recent like updates I got it. I want to specify before I start that if you're going to connect it to a TV that uses HDR, turn anything like dynamic tone mapping or anything off before you calibrate the HDR because it will not calibrate correctly. Because for some reason, it will only calibrate correctly by default on a TV that supports HDR, which, by the way, is pretty much limited to LG TVs. But I find it won't, you can't calibrate it 100% correctly on a normal HDR TV unless it's HIG from the first screen. But on the second screen, if you move it all the way to the left and then move it 6 places to the right, that's roughly the catch-all HDR, which is fine for it. Now I'm going to go into some of the games that I have for it. I'm going to go into my issues with certain things with it and what I like about the system. Now, the biggest point that I need to bring up here is do not go into this expecting this to be the same experience as you'd get on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, because it's not. It's a little bit just below that. It's like an experience just below that. Also, there are a few caveats to some of the physical versions of games, which I'll get to as I get through them. Also, it's worth noting that all of the accessories and peripherals that you have for the Switch 1, with the exception of the original Joy-Cons, will work with the Switch 2. So if you have a Switch 1 Pro controller, that will work. The only peripherals that will not work is the original Joy-Cons, because the original Joy-Cons clip into the side of the system, whereas the Switch 2 Joy-Cons are magnetized. Now, with that out of the way, I've been playing it roughly for just over a week now since I got it. Having a lot of fun with it. I've played exclusives and multi-platform games on it to gauge a little bit of like how the system works. It is a great step up from the Switch 1. It's a lot more capable than the Switch 1. A lot more capable. The only issue I could see going forward is as games become a lot more demanding, just ignore the lighting, so I can do about it. As games become a lot more demanding, it's going to be very difficult for it to keep up in like 4 or 5 years' time. But anyway, that said, the first game that I played on it, and I don't have a physical copy because it came bundled with it, but I can show you my carry case because it's relatively the same thing, is Mario Kart World. I hate the lighting on this camera. Now, Mario Kart World is the pack-in game that came with the game when you buy it at launch. You can buy it separately as well. It's a good evolution of the Mario Kart formula. I just don't think it justifies that expensive price tag, especially when you can complete each of the cups like in one sitting. You're paying for the open world aspect, is basically what you're paying for, and it's not got a lot to do in the open world outside of like the occasional missions with the P switches and finding all the question mark blocks. It just, there's more that could have been done with the idea, is basically what I'm saying, is there's more that could have been done with it. The other exclusive that I got was Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, Donkey Kong Bonanza, to me, is the must-have game. It's a brilliant game. Now, I'm aware of the fact, again, I apologize for the terrible lighting. I'm aware of the fact that this game started out life as a Switch 1 game. It's a great game, though. It is honestly the best exclusive experience on the Switch 2, and I really think this game is going to stand a chance at winning Game of the Year. It probably won't. Expedition 33 will probably beat it. Although I will say, I love Expedition 33, but it's kind of getting ridiculous that every time anybody online mentions any other game having a chance of winning Game of the Year, you have people saying, no, Expedition 33. I'm just going to say it as it is. You can have more than one great game released in a year, you know. That is actually a possibility. But yeah, this is honestly the best exclusive on the system right now. Now, these next two don't really count because they're Switch 1 games. But I got them in. I renewed my Nintendo Online subscription, which, by the way, on Switch 2 gives you access to the GameCube online service games. But it also, you get the upgrade for these two games for free if you own them on the original Switch. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, Tears of the Kingdom benefits a lot more from this. Than Breath of the Wild does. Because the issue with Breath of the Wild is there's not really much done with it. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom was a game that came out late in the Switch's life cycle, and let's be honest, by that point the Switch got long in the tooth and was like struggling. But yeah, you can get the upgrades for both of these games for free if you have the Nintendo Online subscription, the highest tier. Also worth noting, if you are like me and you own the physical versions on Switch 1, you will need the Switch cartridge in the Switch 2 to play the game. Now, another game I bought, and this surprised me because this game should not run as well as it does on this system. Cyberpunk 2077. Now, I would highly recommend everybody pick this up, and this game is all on the cartridge. Now, I want you to remember that for what I'm going to say in a minute. But yeah, Cyberpunk on the Switch 2 it's incredible. It's not exactly like 100% perfect, but it is a perfect example. A perfect example of how great a multi-platform game can actually look on the Switch 2. And this game came out at launch, and it's been revealed that 75% of this game's sales were physical, which basically that is Nintendo. That is your consumers telling you we want more physical releases fully on the cartridge, which unfortunately are very few and far between as far as multi-platforms go. I believe there's only 2 others that are fully on the cartridge. But yeah, Cyberpunk is a really great experience on the Switch 2. Now, I will preface, from this point on, all of these games are multi-platform, and some of them are great, some are not so great, and one in particular has some issues which I want to overlook but cannot. And I'll explain why I can't overlook it. But yeah, Cyberpunk is the must-own multi-platform game on the system. It looks great, it plays well, and it's all on the cartridge, both the base game and Phantom Liberty. So yeah. Now, this next part I need to go on a rant about. I have 2 games here, 2 physical games here, which are, well, I'll show you. First one is WWE 2K25. Now, right there. I don't know if you can read it. Download code only. No game cards included. And I don't mind opening this because I've already put the code in. This is what you get. Okay, I am just... And of course you've got Rhea Ripley on the back and Katsu. But that's down there. I'm just going to say this right now. This is not a physical version of a game. What I just showed you with Cyberpunk is a physical version of a game. What I'm going to show you later on pass as physical versions of the games, even though they're kind of sort of not really. This is not a physical version of a game. And before anybody jumps on my throat and says, this game is too big to fit on a cartridge, there is another game coming up later which exceeds the 64GB size limit of the Switch 2 game card, keycards, but is a game keycard still. There is no excuse for this game being a download code in a box. And the next game I'm going to show you after this has even less of an excuse. This game is about 73GB, which is bigger than the Switch 2 game keycards allow, or cartridges allow, but it shouldn't matter. Other games that are the same size or even larger than this are game keycards. The NBA 2K25, for God's sake, is a game keycard. So why was this a download code? This was a download code because you rushed to get it released so you could coincide it with just before SummerSlam. Unacceptable that this is a download code. Unacceptable. I basically right here just have an empty box now. And my biggest issue, now, the thing is, this game is a great version of the game. It looks great. It runs great. That's not the issue here. That is not the issue here. This looks on par with the PS5 version. Yes, it has features missing, like hair dye for some reason, and a lot of the community creations are blocked and not allowed. But for the most part, it is essentially the same, and it has a few lighting effects missing. But it's essentially the same exact game as the PS5 version. My issue is, it's not a physical game. It is, like, you may as well just buy the digital version, because this is a code in a freaking box. It's still a great game, though. I would highly recommend if you're a WWE fan and you have a Switch 2, you try it out. But yeah, it is a download code in a box, which is not going to be sustainable in the future, is it? So essentially, there is no proper, true physical version of this game on the Switch 2. It's a great version of the game. Now, there was, when I first bought this, there was an issue that occurred that a lot of people reported where the commentary wasn't working, but that didn't bother me. The game was still playable, the game was still functional. It's still a great game on the Switch 2. It's just, it's a download code in a box, and that rubs me up the wrong way, because I don't have anything attainable from that. Now, this next game is also a download code in a box. But this game has even less of an excuse, because at least with WWE 2K, you can make the argument it's too large to fit on a game keycard. This game has no excuse. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. This game is 40. This game is not even 45. This is 31GB. This could have been a game key card. Now, the reason why this isn't a game key card is because Activision are lazy. Is what this is. Again, this is not a physical product. I cannot, if I lose my Switch 2 account, or lose my Switch 2, this is useless to me. You may as well have given me a sheet of paper for this in W2K. These are not physical games. And also, they don't even uniformly match. Because look at that. That's written on the spine. Same thing. Yet the game key cards and the actual physical cartridges, the writing is from the top. Goes from the top. I'll show you. See? So, they won't even look correct on a shelf. Yeah, these download codes in a box, these are worse than the game keycards. Because at least the game keycards is a physically attainable thing. It's still a digital, it's still well, I'll get to it in a minute, but this is worse than a game key card. Because at least a game key card has a physically attainable version. It's still a physical version, kind of. This is not. This shouldn't even be a thing in 2025. I should not be picking up a fucking game, excuse my language, in a fucking game store and having it be a download code in a goddamn box when it's a physical goddamn case. Also, you have 64 gigabytes of space to work with on these cartridges. You're telling me that only CD Projekt goddamn Red can get their game to fit on the cartridge properly. If your game is less than 64 gigabytes, it should automatically be a physical cartridge, not a game keycard or one of these, because it will fit on there. It's just developers being lazy because they want to rush these games out for the launch or the launch window. But yeah, it's a great version, has a few laggy places here and there, but for the most part, it's a good version. The loading times are atrocious, though, especially on the parks and Pro Skater 4. But yeah, it's still a good version. Definitely better than the original Switch version, which I've not played, but I've heard it has a lot of issues. Just, it's not quite there when it comes to, like, the PS5 and Xbox versions. Okay, now we come to the other one. The one that a lot of people are saying is the controversial one, and the one that, ironically, I have the most physicals of. The issue with these ones is they are a physical version, but they're also not. These game key cards. Now, the issue with these game key cards is they're a physical version, but they're basically a digital version that requires a physical card to play. That doesn't make any sense to you. You're not alone there. It doesn't make any sense to me either. But they're a digital version that requires a physical card. Now, the first up here is Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, which was another launch game. This is a 2D, the art style is still very 3DS. The game itself is really good, though. It has some very all-star voice acting. Now, the game itself, the size, it says on the back. Now, they'll always say on the back, larger than the game actually is. Keep that in mind. It says 11 gigabytes on the back, but it's actually about 9 gigabytes. Why is a 9 gigabyte game a game keycard? Someone explain that to me. Why is a 9 gigabyte game a game keycard that does not fit fully on a cartridge? A 9 gigabyte game can easily fit on a 64 gigabyte card. Easily. It's just, again, developers being lazy. And this is Square Enix, by the way, so I will not be surprised if Final Fantasy VII Remake is a code in a fucking box. Okay. Game key cards, I understand, are a controversial topic. However, I understand the need for them if it's the only way to get a physical version of these games. I understand that. But a 9 gigabyte game has no excuse for being a game keycard. This should have been a physical cartridge with the game on it. The game itself is really good. I actually would highly recommend that people pick this up, especially since this is a third-party exclusive. Highly recommend people pick this one up, even though it's a game keycard. It doesn't take up much space. But yeah, really good version of it. Has some great stellar voice acting in it, like Bryce Papenbrook and Yuri Lowenthal. But yeah, great game. Just didn't need to be a game keycard. Now, this next one didn't need to be a game keycard either. In fact, I'm scratching my head as to why the next game in this series doesn't have a Switch 2 version. Sonic X Shadow Generations. Yes, this is a game keycard as well, when the game is literally about 20 gigabytes. Easily could have fit on a game keycard, but what do I know? Or a game cartridge, but what do I know? Really good version here. Feels kinda on par with the PS5 version, with only like occasional frame dips here and there. My complaint is, Sega, why are you not doing a Switch 2 version of Sonic Cross Worlds? Like, you have, it's not a dev kit issue. In fact, I'm starting to call bullshit on some of these developers saying they got their dev kits late. Especially, okay, I'm putting FromSoft on blast. You're saying you got a dev kit late when you had one Hort featured prominently in the reveal showcase for the Switch 2, and you're making an exclusive game for it. But you got you're making an exclusive game for the Switch 2, meaning Nintendo's trusting you to make an exclusive for them. And we're supposed to believe that you got a dev kit late. We're supposed to believe you got a dev kit late, and that's why the Elden Ring port runs like shit. Can't be that you suck at optimization and you're just lazy and just wanting to shove it out there. Can't be that. Yeah, I refuse to believe that if you're making an exclusive game for it that will showcase during the launch window, during the reveal showcase, that you got a dev kit late. I refuse to believe that. But yeah, good version here. Again, didn't need to be a game key card. You're gonna hear me saying that about quite a few of these, except for one of these as a game key card. But yeah, pretty good version here. Interestingly, I would say this is actually superior in places to the PS5 version in terms of like visual quality for the Sonic Unleashed anyway. But that, yeah. Next, now this next one was ported over to the Switch 2 by the same team that ported over WWE 2K. Now you can tell that this next game was a launch game and WWE 2K was not. Also, there's probably going to be people who are going to judge me for owning this game and be like, oh, you know that the person who owns this franchise hates trans people and any like thing that fun to. I'm aware of that, but I wanted to get this version of this game, and plus, you know, I'm entitled to get whatever games I want. If you're gonna judge me for owning a game, then sure, hang up. Hogwarts Legacy, which again is a game key card where it's only 30 gigabytes, so your guess is as good as why this one is. Now, Hogwarts Legacy on Switch 2 is an interesting beast. It doesn't... How do I say this? It looks pretty bad. Okay? It looks pretty bad. It has some high quality textures in it. It still, don't get me wrong, it still has some high quality textures in it. Okay? Particularly on clothing. The issue is, the game looks really low res on, like, even in docked, it looks really bad. Now, I understand that might be more to do with the issue of what the game doesn't use DDLS or whatever it is that Nintendo used to help multi-plats look better. But also, the game has a lot of glitches that don't, like, thing. I went into a room in the castle, and everything was bright white. And then everything just suddenly popped in. It took about 10 seconds for textures to pop in at one point. And also, there's character judder. Certain character animations judder on this. I have no idea what happened here. It's still a good, playable version of the game, and it's selling really well, digitally anyway. But the issue is, it's not a very good version of the game in terms of, like, clarity. If you bought this at launch, and this was the first game that you played, you were probably disappointed with the Switch 2 by default for it. I'm glad the porting studio, because Nintendo owns the porting studio that ported this. It should say here. It doesn't. But, the studio that ported this also ported over WWE 2K25, and are apparently the same studio and team that are going to help port over Final Fantasy VII Remake and Persona 3 Reload. So, Nintendo has a porting studio. Their first was an okay effort that kind of, has issues. Their second is a great experience that's equal to the other consoles. So let's see how Persona 3 Reload and Final Fantasy VII Remake pan out, which I plan on getting both. But yeah, it's still a great game that it just looks really rough. Like, really rough. But yeah, at least with HDR on, it looks rough. You turn the HDR off, the game looks fantastic. But you turn HDR on, the game looks rough, which... baffling that that's why it is. Now, this next one is one of, in my opinion, this is an instance where the Switch 2 version somehow looks better than its more powerful console counterpart version. Street Fighter 6, which again, Game Key card. Now, Street Fighter 6 on Switch 2, in any mode but the World Tour mode, looks vastly superior to the PS5 Xbox Series version. I'm not really a person who thinks this, everybody does. It's because of the aliasing and DDLS support and NVIDIA support that the Switch 2 has that's the others don't. This game benefits fully from that. It looks great. Now, the only issue I have is in World Tour mode, when you're fighting different people and you first start a fight with people, it lags for a second, and that lag can result in the computer getting a cheap hit in on you. There's only that issue. This version comes with more content than the base version on the PS5 and Xbox One Series X, because it comes with the Years 1 and 2 DLC characters, which includes M. Bison, but and also Terry from Final Fight. The World Tour mode is good. The World Tour mode is very good still. It's just, it's in the World Tour mode, you can tell compromises had to be made there to get it stable. Because World Tour mode, natively this game can do 120. This game can do 1080p 120Hz. So can Cyberpunk. I forgot to mention that. And I'm pretty sure, I think Hogwarts Legacy can as well, but don't hold me on that. But yeah, this game can do 1080 120Hz or 1440 120Hz. I don't play 120Hz on Switch 2 because I don't think it needs it. But yeah, all the modes on this game, with the exception of World Tour, run at a buttery smooth 4K 60. The only mode that doesn't is World Tour, which is 1080 60. With the occasional drops, like I said, when it first starts fights with certain characters. But yeah, great version of the game. This is another one, even though it's a game key card, I recommend people pick this one up to give it a try. It's hard to overlook that game key card thing, though. Hard to overlook game key card. It's like 50 gigabytes, so again, could easily have fit on the card. And you could have just given us the download code for those. But yeah, yeah. And the last game here. Now, this last game actually surprised me, because this game is one of the most visually impressive games I'd ever seen in my life on other platforms. And when I found out, when I watched the showcase showing the Switch 2 and what was going to be released on it, I was apprehensive of this version of this game, because I thought there's no way they're going to get this game running anywhere close to good, because of how demanding this game is of specific hardware when you have it looking at its best. Hitman World of Assassination. Now, again, it's a game key card. This one has the excuse though, because it's over 64 gigabytes. This is I'm gonna be really honest. I really like this game, and to be perfectly honest, yes, it has issues in the frame rate department occasionally, but they did do a patch to fix that issue. It's now locked to 30 FPS. Yes, it's locked at 30 FPS, which I should point out is going to be probably the standard. 4K 30 is probably going to be the standard for Switch 2 going forward, which I know a lot of people are going to be put off by, but I'm okay with because I understand that is what they have to do to get these games to run properly. If the game can only reach 4K 30 on the Switch 2, it's fine by me. I do not care. Frame rate has never been a thing with me. As long as a game is stable with a frame rate, I'd rather have a stable 30 than an unstable 60, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it runs at 30 FPS though. But it does run at 4K. It is one of, along with Cyberpunk, I would say this, Cyberpunk, Street Fighter 6, and WWE 2K are, heck, I'd even throw Tears of the Kingdom in there, are the most visually impressive Switch 2 games currently, in my opinion, that I've played so far anyway. I haven't played stuff like Madden, I don't intend to. I haven't played, Rune Factory or anything like that. Like, these are just the ones I've played. Out of the ones I've played, I would say Cyberpunk, WWE 2K, this, and Street Fighter 6 are the most visually impressive. And I would say Hogwarts Legacy is the most visually disappointing. But yeah, this has all of the contents that are included in every other version of it, including the awesome freelancer mode. But yeah, it's a really great experience on the Switch 2 that has its own exclusive content as well. There is Nintendo-themed content in this version of the game. I would highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in it. But again, it's a game keycard, so it's hard to recommend. I know it's hard to recommend a game keycard game, but I can't help it with certain games because they're just that good. But yeah, this is one of those ones that's a fantastic experience from start to finish. It does, I have noticed, if you're doing a more intensive map in Freelancer or whatever, the loading screen will have very, 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 very bad stutter. The frame rate in the loading screen will reach like 5 FPS. That's because it's loading up. That's because it's loading in assets into the game. Because this game is a very heavily detailed, heavily demanding game. There's not really been many compromises made to this other than the frame rate. But yeah, this is one of the best versions. Now, if I was to rank all of these games, I'm not going to rank all them in order from like what I think is ones they should get. But I'm just going to say, I'm going to close with my final thoughts on the Switch 2 itself so far, after having it just over a week. I love it. I think it's a fantastic system. I think it is definitely better than the Switch 1 in terms of capabilities and hardware. And also, a lot of Switch 1 games, even if they don't have an official upgrade, like the 2 Zelda games, like Super Mario Party, like Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, it may not have a proper upgrade to a Switch 2 version, but a lot of games take advantage of the Switch 2 hardware and are improved. So stuff like Super Mario Odyssey is improved. Super Smash Bros. Is improved. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are like totally different games now. They actually run incredibly well now. And actually look... They still look rough in places, but they look better than they do on the original Switch. Because that boost in hardware. So that's to be considered. The only negative is be very cautious. And this doesn't apply for Switch 2 games. This only applies to Switch 1 games. Be very careful if you're playing used Switch 1 games on the Switch 2. Because if somebody has used that cartridge to make a ROM of it, Nintendo will know. And they will ban your console for it, but you can easily fix it if you can prove you have the physical cartridge. So if you're going to use used games to Switch 1, just proceed with caution, okay? Just, yeah. Also, what do I expect from it for the future? Well, I think, even though right now they have a dev kit issue the third-party studios haven't received dev kits, which I still think is actually kind of an exaggeration, because pretty much all of the big studios have released games on it. EA have released Split Fiction and Madden and FIFA on it. Ubisoft are releasing Star Wars. What's it called? I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. The Star Wars game that they made. They're releasing that on it. 2K, Take-Two basically, have released WWE 2K and are releasing NBA 2K on it, and they're also releasing Borderlands 4 on it. And they've done Civilization 6, I believe. Sega have released Sonic and Yakuza on it, and they're releasing Persona on it. Square Enix have released Bravely Default, and they're also releasing Final Fantasy VII Remake on it, and a couple of other games, and Dragon Quest. Activision with Tony Hawk. So yeah, like WB with Hogwarts, and Capcom with Street Fighter. So a lot of your big studios have received dev kits. I'm thinking it's some of your shovelware studios. I have a feeling it might be some of your studios like your. It might be some of your studios like your what are they called? The ones that make all those freaking licensed shovelware. I'm thinking it's like studios like that, like your Outright Games is, your Nacons, your Microids, those ones. The ones that are known for putting out games of very questionable quality, let's just say. I don't think it's your big studios, because I think all your big studios have released games for it or are bringing games out for it. But yeah, I have good hopes for it for the future. I think it's gonna be. I think it could potentially have more third-party support for it than the Switch 1 did, because the benefit of the Switch 2 is it is baseline close to the Series S. So as long as games are being made for Xbox Series X and S, they're more than likely going to be made for Switch 2. It's just if developers want to bring them over, which I don't see why they wouldn't, because as far as I'm aware, the console sold well at launch. But yeah, I will say though, it is definitely not as powerful as Nintendo led us to believe when they showed it off. When Nintendo first showed it off, I think we all thought when we heard the words 4K HDR, I think we all thought the same thing. I think we all thought, oh, it's going to be basically a Switch 2 that's a PS5 equivalent. It's not. It's between PS4 Pro and Series S, I would say. It's borderline between those two. It's more powerful than the PS4, but it's not as powerful as a PS5 or Series X. It's just it has games that look phenomenal, like a Cyberpunk, like a Hitman, like a WWE 2K. But the problem is, you can still tell those versions have had compromises made to them to get them to run. Like the NPC density is lowered on Cyberpunk. You can't have hair dye features or custom logo features on W2K. Or in Hitman's case, the frame rates drop from 60 to 30. But yeah, just I have high hopes for the future for it. I think it's going to be a great system going down the line. Time will tell if it surpasses the Switch 1 in terms of popularity and sales and games. Too early to tell yet. There are some people who are saying it's doom and gloom for the Switch 2 because it had a slow start in terms of games. Every console has a slow start in terms of games. The Switch 1 even did. The first year, okay, I can't believe I'm having to say this, but the first year of a console is always going to be a slow start. Because you have new hardware that developers are first getting used to. Obviously, you're going to have a massive wave of games come out at the beginning because there's going to be loads of developers who want a game out at launch. But then they'll start to slow down. But just coming up from Nintendo alone, we have Pokemon Z and Z to A. We have Kirby Air Riders. We have the new Hyrule Warriors. We have we got Metroid Prime 4. So we still have a lot of games coming out from Nintendo themselves throughout the rest of the year. And that's not including the third-party stuff like Persona 3 Reload, like I'm trying to think of others, like that, like NBA 2K coming out. We got a bunch of like multi-platform Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and I'm aware, yes, some of these games are already on other systems, but yeah, they're going to bring these games over that are on other systems already because the systems just come out. They can't bring it out at the same time as other platforms when the consoles exist yet, can they? But yeah, it's a great system. Do I think it's worth the almost £500 or $500 price tag? Is the question here. I'm gonna say it depends. It depends on what you plan on playing on it. If you plan on playing it in both handheld and docked, I would say yes, it is. If you're going to be playing multi-platform games and exclusives. If you're only going to be playing exclusives, I would say, if you're only interested in exclusives, I would say wait a little while. I would say wait until we have Pokemon Z to A. Wait till we have Kirby Air Riders. Wait till we have Metroid Prime 4. Wait till I would probably say most people will pick this up when the next 3D Mario drops. Like, I'd wait until those if you're only going to play exclusives on it. Because if you're only going to play exclusives on it, and you've played Nintendo consoles all your life, but you just only want to play the exclusives on it, there's only really 2 games on it right now that you can't play on a Switch 1. Which is Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. And while both those games are great, neither one of them is worth dropping $500 or nearly £500 on one system for. If you're gonna now the other side of it is, if you're going to play multi-platform games and you're going to play exclusives, then yeah, I would say, and you're interested in a majority of games that are on it, like I was, then yes, I would say it's worth it. Is it worth getting as a dedicated handheld over a Steam Deck? Now, here is where I'm going to piss off a lot of people. Abso-fucking-lutely. It's much more powerful than a Steam Deck. It just is. It's much more powerful than a Steam Deck. And I know, like, all your Steam Deck fanboys are like, but it doesn't have as many games. A, because it's just come out. And B, because the Steam Deck is basically a dedicated handheld PC, whereas the Switch 2 isn't. Also, it makes me laugh, why are people comparing the Steam Deck and the Switch 2 anyway? Last thing I checked, you can't buy the Steam Deck dock with the Steam Deck. So, the Steam Deck isn't a hybrid. The Steam Deck is a handheld. The Switch 2 is a hybrid console. You can't compare it to the Steam Deck fairly. And when you do compare it to the Steam Deck loses anyway. Because the Steam Deck can't do 1080p. The screen on the Switch 2 itself is on the handheld screen is 1080p HDR. Which the Steam Deck can't do even in OLED. I think the most Steam Deck can reach is 900p. You can force 4K on it, but you won't get a 4K image. You'll just get a 4K image downscale to whatever the maximum resolution of the version of Steam Deck that you have is, which, by the way, will look dreadful. But yeah, just be warned that not every game is going to be a great, like, smooth experience. You are going to have compromises. There are going to be frame dips in games. And also, if you're going to buy a lot of non-first party games, you need to get at least one SD card, because you're going to need it, because basically 99% of the game's library, I just showed you even, 99% of the game's library are either download codes in a box, game keycards, we have to download the whole thing, or just digital only. But yeah, just... And as of now, they only do one size officially that works with it. But yeah, I'm happy that I have it. I'm glad that I have it. If you're a massive Nintendo fan, you have everything Nintendo, you probably already have one anyway. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Switch 2. If you're enjoying it, if you think it's worth the money, or if you think that Nintendo dropped the ball with it. I don't think they dropped the ball with it. I just think people had too high expectations. I think we, like I said earlier, I think we all saw during the presentation of revealing the console officially what it was going to be like. I think we all saw and heard 4K HDR during that showcase, and we all assumed that that meant that it was going to be the same base power level as the PS5 Xbox Series, which it's not. It is base power level equal to Series S, but it's not comparable to PS5 Xbox Series X. It's just not. It's not comparable at all in that regard. But yeah, I'll be doing these either weekly or bi-weekly. I don't know yet. I'll see how well this one does first. But yeah, this was just the first one. If you like what you saw, smack that like button, notification bell, smash subscribe button. Sora, signing out. Hey guys, peace.